From the Corner Office is brought to you by Synovus Bank, championing business growth through trusted, relationship-driven banking throughout the Gulf Coast region. The nonprofit leadership axiom to run it like a business is a calling card for Kourtney Sanchez. She was named CEO of United Way Suncoast, one of the largest United Way organizations in Florida, in June. She comes to the role after serving as Chief Impact Officer of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kourtney talks often about the need for nonprofits to have solid operating strategies and models, so the work that organizations do can be sustained through good, bad, and unexpected periods. The Business Observer covers and writes regularly about nonprofits and their dynamic leaders like Kourtney. For more, subscribe. Go to businessobserverfl.com. Hello, and welcome to the Business Observer's From the Corner Office podcast. I'm Mark Gordon, managing editor of the Business Observer. Today's guest is Kourtney Sanchez, CEO of the United Way Suncoast. Kourtney, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark.
Excellent. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit and talk about leadership, and certainly United Way Suncoast, which is as we're recording here in early July, which is a super duper new position for you. So I want to also thank you for taking the time out. I'm sure there's a lot going on in your world right now. But before we get into United Way and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and some of your other experiences, we're going to get our audience to know what kind of leader you are a little bit with this or that. And I've been told this is what the young people do online. So we're gonna do our version of it. Okay, this or that leadership edition. Do you as a leader, do you value vision or execution?
Vision.
Data or intuition?
Data followed closely by intuition.
So you want to have the data, but you got to use your gut too.
Yes. I think the data will tell you what's happening. Intuition is going to lead you to ask the right questions as to why it's happening.
Consensus or decisiveness?
Consensus.
This one's I might have to take this next one off because I feel like it's getting outdated, but I'm curious on your answer. In-person or remote work?
Well, you're going to hate my answer because I'm going to say both. I've worked in a fully remote and a fully in-person workplace, and I think it's so team and culture and organization dependent.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all black-white answer here.
It's true. I just feel like I feel like in-person is so much better, but yes, you do have to keep the remote. I work remote sometimes, so I shouldn't totally squash on the remote, but in-person is just better.
There's just a richness to in-person dialogue. I completely agree, but I've seen remote work really well as well. So.
Yes. Are you a coach, as a leader, a coach or a challenger?
Coach.
Optimistic or realistic?
Optimistic. I got to have a realist around me at all times.
You have to have I love that. You got to have, yes. But you're in nonprofits. You got to be optimistic too, though.
Yes. You have to, especially when the work's heavy. You have to have some hope.
You feel some heavy work, and if you're not optimistic, I think you'll get swallowed up. Speed or perfection?
Speed.
Hire for skill or attitude?
Attitude always.
Yeah. Teach skill. All right. So Kourtney, moving on, we're going to talk United Way Suncoast, and I'm looking here, and I was coming up with some questions, and I wanted to ask you what's one word to describe your first 5 weeks, but I feel like you need more than one word. So I'm going to give you two questions. Give us one word to describe your first 5 weeks as CEO of United Way Suncoast, and then tell us a little bit more after that one word.
Sure. Although I could probably give you 50 words, I would say one word would be hopeful. I've really focused my first few weeks on listening and learning and building relationships, trying to get a better idea of the full landscape of what United Way Suncoast has done, is doing, needs to do in the future. And I keep coming to the word hope. I have an incredible team. Our organization is filled with really dedicated, smart individuals. It gives me hope for all that's ahead. But on top of that, we have an incredibly engaged board that's really passionate about our work. We have a really tight knit ecosystem of nonprofit partners that we support and fund and work with. And we have incredibly dedicated and passionate donors and volunteers. And so for me, there's a lot of work to be done and a lot that United Way Suncoast is going to have to continue doing to support our community. But there's a lot of hope in that feeling as well.
Oh, I like that. And so you started June 1st. What are some of the things that you've done in terms of it's such a broad organization? Actually, we take a step back. I want to know what you've done in the 5 weeks, but also for people who don't know, tell us what the United Way is, United Way Suncoast, and what your mission is.
Sure. So really what I've done is exactly what you are asking. I've been learning what is United Way Suncoast doing and who are we as an organization. And it was really timely, as you mentioned. I started June 1st, and in mid-June, we came out with our newest ALICE data, which is really the North Star of what United Way Suncoast exists to do. So ALICE are our asset limited, income constrained, employed neighbors. So basically what that means when we talk about an ALICE family is these are individuals that are working full time, they are hardworking, contributing parts of our society that are living paycheck to paycheck. So they are one unexpected bill away from real financial crisis. And the United Way Suncoast mission is to serve our ALICE families and to lift them up, strengthen them, and meet them where they are. So we do that really through three core pillars. So financial security, education, and community resiliency. So we have a lot of our own direct service programming to contribute to supporting our ALICE families. But something else we do that I love about United Way Suncoast work is we also convene stakeholders. So whether that's nonprofit partners, community organizations, we have space in the policy field as well, bringing together our lawmakers around issues. And we're also a funder. So we're capacity building for nonprofit partners that are supporting ALICE families in spaces that we aren't. And so when we look at ALICE in our region, Florida is actually ranked 4th in the country for the highest survival budget in the country. And so what that means is this is not going out to dinners, traveling, this is just necessities, just surviving. And right now in our region, which is a 5-county region, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto, a family of 4 with 2 young kids has to make over $101,000 a year just to survive. And so there's, it's a critical mission. It's going to continue needing a lot of support and collaboration. It won't be a problem that we will individually solve. And that's what I love about United Way Suncoast.
And that goes back to hope, as you mentioned, that you're
Yes.
hopeful to move the needle on a lot of these things. And I always thought of the United Way, all those things you just said, and as also just this connector. United Way to
Absolutely.
me is also this connector between nonprofits and has always done such a good job with that. All right, going back to a leadership question, Kourtney. So you get into this position June 1st, and you're replacing a really well-respected leader, Jessica Maroff, who has not yet been on the From the Corner Office podcast, but she has agreed to come on. So you're going to be on.
We need to get her on. Yes.
She is coming on. We've actually had her, what do you say, lesser half or better half or other half, Owen, has been on the podcast. But Jessica, if you're listening, and I think you are next, you are coming on. So, but I say all that to set you up, Kourtney. She had such this reputation of a great leader at United Way. What are some steps that you're sort of taking mentally, replacing somebody like Jessica?
I mean, I can't say enough great things about Jessica. I mean, I've always respected and thought so highly of her, but now inheriting the team, the culture, the organization that she worked really hard and thoughtfully to build makes me admire her even more. And so when I think about coming in and following in her big shoes, and just the bar that she's set, I look at it as a huge responsibility. I want to continue to maintain and build on the culture and strength that she has created at United Way Suncoast. But I also think there's this opportunity for me as a different leader with different strengths, a different person, to continue building what she's created, but also bring in my own personality, my own leadership background and ideas. But it's certainly a big responsibility, I feel, to continue her legacy.
Yeah, for sure. All right. And so you came to this position from an organization that, you don't have to explain what their mission
Yeah.
statement is, right? It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We all know what they do, which is pretty cool. Tell us about your role there and what you did for the Bucks.
So at the Buccaneers, I served as the chief impact officer for the organization. So basically, what that meant is I oversaw all of our corporate social responsibility programming. So anything that the Bucks as a team was doing in the community, whether that was programming that they were building, which was a big majority of our community programming while I was there was in-house programs that the team led, but also overseeing all of our nonprofit partnerships and donations out into the community. I oversaw player relations, everything our players were doing to give back and be out in the community. I also served as the executive director of the Glazer Family Foundation and worked very closely with ownership on their personal philanthropic goals. And so it was an incredible opportunity, such a great job. I'm a lifelong Bucks fan, but more than that, I just have such respect and admiration for the Glazers and just who the organization is
Yeah.
and their commitment to our community.
Yeah, you always hear, and I've worked, a little bit on stories, but just you hear all the time in the community what a class organization they are, the Glazer family
Absolutely.
and all the other people. What was Tell us a cool experience. I don't know if it's a Super Bowl thing or tell us just like what's like a super cool experience that you had working for an NFL team.
So, if you ask anyone at the Buccaneers, I am not a sports person, which
Okay.
made me very unique within the
Really?
organization. I
Yeah.
was a lifelong Bucks fan. My dad played for the Bucks before I was born, so I had no choice. But with that being said, I did not follow the sport religiously. I did not come in as, starry-eyed over the opportunity to spend time with Baker or any of the players. And so much of my excitement over that role is just really grounded in like the purpose and like the why that I was there. And so professionally, it was building the She Is Football platform from the ground up and expanding the Glazers' commitment to developing the next generation of female leaders. But personally, I have a young son who is a diehard sports fan and a huge Bucks fan. And so just seeing the team, our players through his eyes as a young fan was just so special. He still to this day calls Baker his buddy. I would like to think Baker would also call him his buddy. It's just so special to see the guys and just the impact they have off the field was just exciting to me as a purpose-driven leader.
That's interesting. I did not know that, and I think that's an interesting leadership, not a technique, but an interesting lesson in that you came into it for the job as the profession, and you weren't like, "Oh, this
Yeah,
is so amazing. I'm sitting where Tom Brady sat, or where
yeah,
Baker Mayfield, or all these other names that a lot of people go, oh my god, over." And you
yeah.
were there. You weren't. Maybe you weren't intimidated by it. Maybe that helped you.
I think so. I mean, I
Yeah.
think for me, I will love the Bucks every day for the rest of my life because of who the organization is and what they represent. But more than that, just the character in that locker room is second to none. And I admire that. And just the program that the family and Jason Light have built and recruiting these incredibly high character rookies every year. It's an amazing team, amazing guys, and the impact on the community speaks for itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to touch base. So you mentioned, family a little bit, Glazer family, and then your family. Your grandfather had a real big influence on Tampa Bay and in St. Petersburg specifically.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us who your grandfather was and how his life kind of molded and shaped and led yours.
Yeah. So my grandfather, Toby Crayer, he was born and raised in St. Pete, makes me a proud third generation native of the area. And he just had such love for his community. He just was so grateful for the opportunity St. Pete gave to him and to his family. And it just really instilled in me a deep love of community and really kind of launched me into this career of wanting to give back, wanting to leave this place better than I was born into it. For all of his service, he was recognized as Commodore of the St. Pete Yacht Club and Mr. Sun by the Boosters. And he just was an incredibly well known community figure. And I would say that all comes back to who he was as a person and his character and how he treated others. And I think that shows up for me every day in my work, whether it's because of my chosen profession of giving back in nonprofits or how I treat others.
Yeah, I love that, how you treat others for sure. All right, Courtney, if every leader adopted one principle that you really strongly believe in as a leader, what would that principle be?
I think one principle that resonates for me is just listening first, which is really important with the early days here as the new
Yeah,
CEO. But I think for me, the best leaders aren't often expected to have the answers, but they should be asking the best questions.
ask it right.
Um, I think because listening builds trust faster than talking. But more than that, if you listen and you allow others to contribute thoughtfully to conversation and strategy, they're more apt to support what they've helped shape.
Yeah, yeah, listening, right, and then asking those key questions, so important. What behaviors as a leader do you want to celebrate, even though they might not immediately produce results? You know, you think about nonprofits, sometimes you want to go faster than you can, right? There are some
Yeah,
big problems and big issues, but internally you have to celebrate behaviors that build the culture
absolutely.
you want. So what are some of those?
I think for me, throughout my career, especially in this new role that I'm in, I'm really wanting to celebrate curiosity. Again, just coming back to what I just said to you, yeah, asking those thoughtful questions, but more than anything, collaborating across teams, taking the initiative, learning from your mistakes. I think that those behaviors, yes, they don't produce immediate results, but that philosophy of curiosity, I think, leads to long term success.
Yeah, celebrate curiosity. That's such a great phrase. We talk a lot in the Observer Media Group with our reporters about being curious, not cynical, right? That it's easy to get cynical for various reasons, but
Yes.
stay
Or to think of a
curious.
laundry list of reasons why something won't work or we wouldn't do it this way. And I think we have to break those blinders off.
Yes, and just want to know, as you said, ask those questions and want to know more about whatever's in front of you.
Yeah.
What, you know, talking more about your career, what's maybe a thing or a feedback that you received that maybe hurt or stung at the time, but you've learned a lot from since and it has helped you become leader you are today?
Um, for me, when I think back to some feedback that hurt in the moment, it was about being encouraged to develop my emotional intelligence, my EQ. I think at the time I took that as difficult to hear because I cared so much about people. I cared so much about the work I was doing, and I was fearful that showing my emotions about that deep care was going to be perceived as a weakness. And what I've learned through continuing to study and develop my EQ is that it's actually the opposite. I think emotions and emotional intelligence is a superpower that not all leaders possess or value. And so for me, it's about being able to understand your own emotions, but more than that, recognizing what other people are experiencing, communicating with empathy, um, but still being able to make those thoughtful decisions outside of your emotions. I just think suppressing your emotions isn't the answer. It's more about channeling it effectively. And so I preach this every chance I get, especially with young professionals, to lean into this EQ practice. And it's something that is a muscle you have to build and think about every single day.
Yeah, I want to get back to that in a second, but that's interesting that you talked about that feedback because it's almost like I have struggled in the past when somebody says you're defensive, right? Because then
Mm.
the trigger is, well, you don't want to be
No, I'm not.
defensive, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean I'm defensive, right? And
Yeah.
so you have to your point, you have to be able to play that in your head. You should
Mm,
be able to step back and say, okay, why was I defensive about that, or learn from
right.
it? And you kind of did that. You said you mentioned you studied and leaned into more EQ. How did you do that? I mean, did you read books? Did you watch TED Talks? Like, did you, you know, how did you
Yes.
develop into that?
All of the above
Yeah.
books, TED Talks, podcasts. I think this is an area that, again, having EQ is being able to have the humility of saying, I'm never going to be perfect at this, and I'm going to be dedicated to continuing to grow it. I think back to my career and giving feedback before saying to people, maybe to improve executive presence. That's also to me an extension of emotional intelligence. To your point, it's being able to pause in the moment, think clearly about the question or the feedback you've been given and how you'll respond and react and read the room. Um, it's something that anyone can develop. I
Yeah.
love that about EQ.
Yeah. And you said you've talked to younger people in
Yeah,
your life, your sphere, your career about that.
absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think when you look at executives, I know there's a lot of data out there that backs this. When you look at executives, having emotional intelligence at a certain level of success is like a non-negotiable. And it's again not something a lot of people talk about, especially when you think about young professionals. You're talking about networking, building your resume, developing long-term relationships. Well, what about the internal work that they could be doing? And that's really why I bring emotional intelligence into the conversation when I'm mentoring or having any type of like dialogue with younger people.
Yeah, you're talking about mentoring younger people. Who has been a mentor for you in your career, Kourtney, and what have you learned from him or her?
I've been so fortunate to have a list of incredible leaders, and all different in their strengths. I whether it was women at the American Heart Association, my leadership at Advent Health, certainly Darcy Glazer Kasowitz and the Glazer family at the Buccaneers. I think I've been really, really focused on building personal relationships, also asking bold questions.
Asking bold questions.
I attribute my opportunity at the Buccaneers to being bold. I had built a relationship with the chief commercial officer, AK, and when I was a fundraiser, I said, "Listen, I want to get onto the funder side of the table. I want to work in community impact. If you ever have an opportunity, this is something I really want." And so when the opportunity for chief impact officer came up, he was my champion and he opened that door, said my name in the room. And it's because I was bold. I told
Yeah.
him my aspirations and my goals. And you just have to, for me, it's about creating like your personal board of directors and being
Yeah.
very clear on what you're trying to do and how others can help get you there.
Yeah, I love that. Be bold, ask bold questions. And we're recording here in early July, and a quick story because it's coming out in the Business Observer shortly. I wrote about two women entrepreneurs in Sarasota who have a fitness studio called Fly Dance Fitness. And
Hmm.
their be bold was they loved the Savannah Bananas exhibition baseball team, and,
Yes.
and they're dancers, and so they had a TikTok video of their dancing, and they were bold, and they reached out to the Savannah Bananas and said, "We want to dance with you." And they listened, they heard, and the owners came down and had this whole great thing that never would have happened if they weren't bold. It's a great theme.
Yes.
Top of mind for me, and that's such a great theme.
I love that. And I think it comes probably from my development background. Fundraisers get told no more than yes. And so I've always looked at it like if I'm told no, I didn't lose anything. I'm in the exact same spot. But if somebody says yes or is able to move the needle in some way, I'm in a better spot for being bold and asking.
Yeah,
But
so
also be gracious. It has to be met with graciousness, of course.
so fundraisers get told no a lot more than they get told
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So you've learn to overcome that. Excellent. As I said, so we're in early July. Kourtney, you're 5 weeks in. I usually end, this is the last question, we usually end from the corner office with what are you looking forward to? I think you're looking forward to a lot, but what's new and exciting in your career and at the United Way Suncoast going into the rest of 2026?
I think that, like I mentioned, I'm just on this incredible listening tour right now where I'm hearing from our internal team members, our external stakeholders and partners. We're hosting some CEO meet and greets in each of our 5 counties where I'm going to have some really great FaceTime and an opportunity to connect with the stakeholders in all 5 of our counties. I'm just really looking forward to deepening those relationships and better understanding the future. I think United Way Suncoast is uniquely positioned to pivot as community needs change. And I think that is an incredible strength that we have. And community needs are ever evolving and we will be ready for them. So for me, I'm looking forward to continuing to learn and listen and get ready to launch us into this next chapter.
Excellent. Kourtney Sanchez, CEO of United Way Suncoast. Thank you so much for joining us on the From the Corner Office podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Business Observer from the Corner Office podcast. I'm your host, Mark Gordy. This podcast was produced by Reed Corley of the Corley Company in Sarasota. To hear more episodes of From the Corner Office podcast, go to businessobserverfl.com.